Families are facing potential hunger.
Inflation has really hit the entire nation.
Dodge a recession this year.
Where's my next meal gonna come from?
With economic downturns come various challenges, and right now, as we face this recession, one growing concern is food scarcity. Today, we will delve into 10 food scarcity issues that may impact Americans during these challenging times. Buckle up, because this journey is not only informational, but critical for understanding the struggles many are currently facing. Number 1. Increased food prices. First off, the impact of the recession leads to inflation, and as a result, increased food prices. With supply chain distributions and decreased agricultural production, the cost of both raw and processed food commodities is on the rise. This means even the basics, like milk, eggs, and bread, are becoming less affordable for many households. A recession typically triggers a wave of inflation. It's a natural economic response due to decrease in production, currency value fluctuations, and increases in operation costs. But what does this mean for the average consumer? When inflation hits, the price tag on your groceries starts to rise, affecting everything from your fresh produce to your pantry staples. The cost of basic commodities such as eggs, milk, and bread starts to creep up. You may notice the pinch, particularly on items that are integral to everyday meals. The cost of meat, for instance, can rise sharply during a recession due to increased feed and transport costs. Now, if we look at this from the supply side, the reasons become clearer. Farming operations are also businesses. They're affected by increased cost of production such as labor, fuel, and raw materials. A rise in any of these factors can lead to a hike in food prices as producers try to maintain their profit margins. And when global supply chains are disrupted, import costs for certain foods can rise, which further inflates retail prices. Number 2. Supply chain disruptions. Secondly, supply chain disruptions have become a significant concern. Whether it's transportation issues, labor shortages, or international trade restrictions, these disruptions directly affect the availability and cost of food. This especially impacts fresh produce and other perishable items, which require quick and efficient transport. A food supply chain refers to the process that brings food from the farm to our tables. This chain includes various stages, from production and processing to distribution and consumption. In an ideal scenario, this chain works smoothly, but during a recession, particularly in the context of the current pandemic, several vulnerabilities can emerge. These disruptions have a direct impact on the cost and availability of food. Transportation issues are one of the first factors. With increased border controls, lockdowns, and health checks, the movement of goods can become slower and less efficient. Number 3. Decline in domestic production. The third issue is the decline in domestic food production. Due to various factors like labor scarcity, lack of resources, and overall economic uncertainty, many farmers and producers are either reducing their production capacity or closing down altogether. This leads to less locally grown food available on the market. Food production is the bedrock of food security. It ensures that there's a stable supply of food to meet demand. However, during a recession, this critical process can take a hit. For one, labor scarcity becomes a significant issue. Farmers rely on seasonal workers to plant, tend to, and harvest their crops. The recession, coupled with travel restrictions and health concerns due to the pandemic, has made it difficult for these workers to reach the farms. Farmers are also grappling with a rise in operational costs. Prices for essential resources like seeds, fertilizers, and machinery have risen, making it more expensive to produce the same amount of food. Number 4. Increase in food waste. Fourth on the list is an increase in food waste. Ironically, even though we're facing food scarcity, a significant amount of food is still wasted due to ineffective distribution, storage problems, and logistical failures. This paradox not only contributes to food scarcity, but also environmental issues. Despite food scarcity, we're still wasting a substantial amount of food, and this paradox is exacerbated during times of recession. One significant contributor to food waste during a recession is the disruption of the food supply chain. As we previously discussed, a slowed or interrupted supply chain can lead to perishable food spoiling before it even reaches the stores. Moreover, panic buying or stockpiling behaviors can lead to household-level food waste. When people buy more food than they can consume, the excess often ends up in the trash. However, one of the most significant contributors to food waste during a recession is the mismatch between supply and demand, particularly in the commercial sector. For instance, many farmers were left with surplus food when demand from restaurants, hotels, and schools dried up almost overnight due to lockdowns. Number 5. Rising poverty and unemployment. The fifth issue is directly linked to the recession itself: rising poverty and unemployment rates. As more people lose their jobs and incomes, affording basic necessities like food becomes an increasingly daunting task, contributing to food insecurity at a rapid pace. Number 6. Pantry stockpiling. Next, we have pantry stockpiling, a behavioral change induced by the fear of future food shortages. While it's understandable, it can exacerbate the problem, causing temporary shortages and price inflation. When people fear food shortages, they tend to buy more than they need to ensure they have enough to weather the storm. It's a natural instinct to want to protect oneself and one's family. However, pantry stockpiling can inadvertently exacerbate food scarcity issues. When large numbers of people start buying in bulk, it can strain the supply chain and lead to temporary shortages, especially of non-perishable goods. What's more, this behavior can cause price inflation. Increased demand for certain products can drive prices up, making them less affordable for everyone, especially those already struggling financially. Number 7. Reduced food aid. At number 7, we have reduced food aid. Many food banks and aid programs face struggles due to increased demand and decreased donations during a recession. This reduction in food aid can be devastating for families who rely on these resources to feed their loved ones. During a recession, more families turn to food banks and other aid programs to make ends meet. These organizations play a critical role in ensuring that everyone has enough to eat, especially during tough times. However, during a recession, these programs face a double-edged sword. On one side, there's an increased demand for their services as more people lose jobs and income. On the other side, there's often a decrease in donations as both individuals and companies tighten their belts in response to economic uncertainty. Additionally, the health precautions due to the COVID-19 pandemic have made the distribution of food aid even more challenging. Traditional methods of food distribution, such as communal meals, have had to be replaced with safer but often more resource-intensive alternatives like prepackaged meals or home deliveries. Number 8. Nutritional inequality. 8th, we have nutritional inequality. Cheaper processed foods are becoming the go-to option for many families, while healthier, often pricier options are becoming less accessible. Over time, this inequality could lead to serious public health concerns. Number 9. Threats to school meal programs. 9th on the list is the threats to school meal programs. With schools operating differently due to the recession and ongoing pandemic-related issues, many children are at risk of losing access to the school meals they depend upon. This is a pressing concern because, for many children, these meals provide the most substantial nutrition they receive all day. Number 10. Increased dependency on imported food. And finally, we're looking at an increased dependency on imported food. With domestic production on the decline, we are becoming more reliant on imported goods to meet our food needs. This dependence is a double-edged sword. It can provide a wider variety of food options, but it also exposes us to the vulnerabilities of global supply chains, such as import restrictions, tariffs, and foreign policy disputes. In a global economy, nations depend on each other for various goods and services. Food is no exception. America, for instance, imports a significant amount of food items, from fruits, vegetables, and nuts to seafood and processed food products. However, with the recession and our domestic food production experiencing a decline, our dependence on imported food is intensifying. Now, this might sound like an easy fix, importing more food to compensate for what we can't produce locally. However, it's not that simple. We have to deal with the complexities of international trade. Policies change, tariffs can be imposed, and diplomatic relations can shift. All these factors can cause fluctuations in food prices, availability, and even quality. So, there you have it. The 10 food scarcity issues that are concerning Americans during this recession. While these challenges may seem overwhelming, it's essential to remember that we can take steps to mitigate them. Think locally, support your local farmers and small businesses. Think sustainably, try to reduce your food waste, and think communally. Donate to food banks, advocate for policies that strengthen our food security, and lend a hand to those in need. We're all in this together, and by understanding these issues, we're already one step closer to finding solutions. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.